Good morning. No. I want to hear some energy. Good morning. Good morning. All right, there we go. I am so happy to see all of you. My name is Vanessa George, and I am the Associate Director of Graduate Career Management at University of San Francisco. And this is, I think, my third or fourth opportunity to spend some time with you here at the NOW conference, and I'm very, very honored to be able to do that. And I love getting a chance to talk about something I am passionate about, which is connecting and by extension, networking. And in this case, we're talking specifically about LinkedIn today. Where I work at USF, I work with our graduate students, and LinkedIn is always a hot topic. And there's never any end to the questions about LinkedIn. So what I'm hoping is that we can have a dialogue today. I don't really want to stand up here and lecture at you. I really want to have the opportunity to hear your thoughts, hear your experiences, get your insight on how you would like to make this service, this tool, work for you. So just with a quick show of hands, first I'd like to know how many of you are here at the NOW conference for the first time? Oh, wow, that's fantastic. Okay. All right, now, how many of you have a LinkedIn profile of any kind? Okay, great. Keep the hands up, keep the hands up, keep the hands up. Okay. How many of you have a picture on your profile? All right, keep the hands up. How many have your actual work experience, at least the titles and the companies on the profile? Great. How many of you have descriptions of all of the different jobs you've done? Excellent. Okay. So you can put your hands down. So our goal today is actually to talk about two key areas, because there are actually many things that you can do with LinkedIn. Let's see. There's several things you can do, but we're going to talk about two key areas, one of which is around how you optimize your profile, how you make your profile rich so that people get a really good idea of what you bring to the table and what you have to offer. Since almost all of you have LinkedIn profiles, I think we're all on the same page here that this is a tool for your professional development, your professional use, your professional communication. Very distinct from the ways that we use other social media tools like Facebook and Twitter and Tinder and things like that. I'm just joking. I'm just checking to see if you're awake. So we really focus on how we present ourselves professionally when we use LinkedIn. Now, profile is one thing. The other thing is how you create a brand or an image of your professional life out there in the marketplace. So those are two main ways that you can use LinkedIn, but there's other ways, right? There's actually networking, there's connecting with people, there's making connections with folks and trying to build that world of allies and friends and professional contacts. So that's a third way. And then the fourth major way that we use LinkedIn is jobs, right? So there's lots and lots and lots, thousands, millions of jobs out on LinkedIn. And you can use LinkedIn, of course, to apply for a whole range of jobs. Our focus today is on those first two key areas, is how do you use LinkedIn to optimize your profile, and how do you leverage the tools to build your brand? If we have time, and if you have specific questions about the other things I talked about, like how you make connections with people or how you find jobs, happy to answer those questions, happy to show you tips, tricks, techniques, but I'm aware that we only have an hour, so so I'm going to try to, focus on this for the hour, but then I'll leave a little time. Is that good? And please, if you have questions, I do want to try to keep us moving forward, but if you have questions in the moment, just go ahead and raise your hand and ask, are you going to need to run around with the mic if that's the case? Okay. So we'll probably try to do that judiciously so Christine isn't running around like a whirling dervish trying to chat with you all. And repeat the question. Yeah, we'll do. Okay, so let's chat a little bit about the world of LinkedIn. And I want to say, for the purposes of this recording, that many of the information, the data, the statistics, and also some of the graphics that I'm sharing have come directly from LinkedIn. At USF, we are a partner with LinkedIn. They support us, they support our students. So all this information that I'm sharing with you actually comes from the source. So I also want to give credit to the company for that. Okay, so the LinkedIn world, it's growing, right? Many of us are on LinkedIn, 433 million members, not just in the US, around the world. It's a movement. 100 million unique visitors every month. So people it took a while, right? And then how many of you, when LinkedIn first came out, you were all over it? You're like, yes, sign me up. Yeah? Now, what was the impression for most people? Like, what is this, right? Why do I need this? I got business cards. Why do I need LinkedIn? I'll just call people I want to talk to. What's the deal? Well, as we know now, fast forward many years later, it has become the primary tool that is used to network, to make connections, to find mentors. We just had a session on mentoring in here, to identify opportunities. It's huge. And not the way it's pronounced by some other people whose name I won't mention. It's huge. 87% of recruiters use LinkedIn. That number goes up. It's probably even higher than that. It's 92%, I think, use social media. 87% use LinkedIn. What does that mean? It means that if you are interested in an opportunity and you're out there trying to identify a role or a job, there is a recruiter out there who is probably looking for you, and they're looking for you on LinkedIn. Right? So if you may think that, I don't really need it, or I'll just throw the profile up there and I won't really worry about it because it's just too much work, this is where recruiters are, and hiring managers, and anybody else who you may think is influential who might be in a position to refer you or recommend you to an opportunity. If you're not on LinkedIn, you need to get on LinkedIn. And so that's my commercial in terms of getting on LinkedIn. The assumption for the rest of this talk today is that you all, have drunk the Kool-Aid, you understand the importance of LinkedIn. We're gonna now move forward and talk about how you leverage it and get the most out of it possible. So let's chat a little bit about what your online brand might say about you. Having had the opportunity to work with hundreds and hundreds, and I do mean hundreds, of students and also mid-level professionals, I've seen all kinds of LinkedIn profiles, and some of them are fabulous, and some of them are works in progress. And what your online brand says about you is extremely important, because that's the message, LinkedIn calls it's your front page to the world. Right? That's the story you're telling people. So let's talk about what some of those stories might be saying, and not necessarily in the best way, but it gives you an idea. So the first one, does your LinkedIn photo say, oops, I forgot this wasn't Facebook? You thought you'd look kind of cute, but realizing that's not quite the image, that you might want to be presenting to the world. Does it say creepy and a little weird, humorous, or I prefer to be mysterious? And not only the picture, which, do any of you actually recognize that picture? Mm-hmm. V for Vendetta, yeah. And I thought about it this morning because I saw that and I loved it. And then it occurred to me wow, that picture actually, I remember from the movie, it represents a whole anti-establishment, anti-government sort of theme in the movie. And it's funny because this person is a real person. I did not make this up. Their headline says, I help small business owners save truckloads of cash on their tax returns. You don't even know what it is he's suggesting he does. I mean, you're just not quite sure. And yet, he thought this was a very compelling profile. This one, I'm on LinkedIn to network, but I don't actually want anybody to know me. A lot of people, I'm not joking, a lot of people do not have pictures on their LinkedIn profile because, and I've had students tell me this, they're like, well, I just don't want to be seen. Why are you on there? Why are you on LinkedIn if you don't want to be seen? The whole point of being on LinkedIn is to create a brand and an image for yourself. And I'm sorry to tell you this, but you do need to show people who you are. That's the nature of the online branding universe. Now, the information is blocked out because, that was deliberate, but I'm really focusing on the photo. And we're going to talk a lot more about photos in a minute. And finally, anybody recognize her? So and the reason I posted her up was not just for gratuitous celebrity sightings, but it was because I see a lot of LinkedIn profiles that look like this. They've got the picture, they've got the title, the headline, even have these so-called job description. In her case, it says famous, self-employed. But this concept that, well, all I need to do is just create the account, right? Isn't that enough? And put at least a bare minimum amount of information. As you noticed, she has one connection. I mean, this is obviously maybe a few years ago, but I see LinkedIn profiles that look like this. So what does this tell the world? What is this telling people about who you are, and how you wish to engage with the world? So what I'd like to have us focus on today is how can we build a profile and in so doing build a community? So I'm going to share with you 7 tips. And I was actually going to suggest that if you wanted to, like many of you I'm sure have smartphones, so if you want to actually look at your LinkedIn profile as we're going along, that's totally cool. As long as the phone's not ringing, I have no problem if you want to pull out your LinkedIn, your smartphones and look at your LinkedIn profile as we go along so you can see where you are relative to some of these tips, okay? First one, photo. Photo speaks volumes. Some of the main takeaways I want to share with you here, and let me just, this 14x is actually a stat from LinkedIn. They are 14 times more likely for people to look at your your profile, if you have a photo than if you don't have a photo. It's just we're human beings. We want to be able to see people. We want to see each other and make that initial, eye to eye, if you will, connection. So when you have a LinkedIn profile and you're thinking about your photo, it's so important. It doesn't have to be, glamour shot, right? But it really needs to represent you at your professional best. So you want to be dressed professionally, whatever that means for your particular profession. If you work in tech, you might be wearing something different than if you work in, let's say, consulting or banking, or you're a senior level executive versus, someone who works with students. Could be senior, but you might work with students, so you might want to have a little bit more of an approachable look. So there's not a hard and fast rule about what you need to wear. You just need to look professional. More importantly, you want a headshot that shows your head, not something too far away. I'm going to show you some not so good pictures in a minute. But you can have a neutral background like the one that I have on my picture, the first one. Or the second one, this is Luana Putney. She's the Associate Chancellor at UC Merced. And she's a board member with me on an American Council on Education Women's Network. And I love her picture. It's just an awesome picture. And you know why? She looks approachable. She also has this natural background behind her. That's a trend right now, having natural backgrounds, which makes people feel like they're in a natural setting and it's human and it's very engaging. The bottom picture is one of my former students, Chris Whitman, who doesn't know that I put up his LinkedIn profile, but I'm sure he'll get over it. We've worked together a lot, and he's a wonderful person, and I really liked what he did with his photo. He's also in a natural setting. He works in tech. Now, he's wearing a tie, but it's kind of like a hybrid, professional yet not stuffy. So I really liked that look, and so I wanted to show that. So let me show you now what you may not, I don't know what your pictures look like, and I'm going to assume none of them look like what I'm going to show you, but just in case you had any questions with the what not to do pictures. So, upper left-hand corner, guy with the cute cat. Okay. It's very cute. I'm sure his cat is wonderful. I'm sure that he's a very, very happy, cat daddy. But that is not the picture you want to be putting on your LinkedIn. Also, bottom left, that is a gentleman who is showing his enthusiasm about being a snorkeler. Now, that's great, that he's an IT director who also happens to like snorkeling. That's fantastic. That is well suited for Facebook, not LinkedIn. Now, those are obvious, right? But on the upper right-hand corner, it may not be so obvious. It's a picture of a very, nice-looking woman, works in advertising. Her clothing is fine. She's in a creative industry. Do you know what's wrong with that picture?
It's a profile.
Right. Can't see the eyes. You actually need to be able to see the person's eyes. That's the same reason on the lower right, that's not a good picture. I mean, he's smiling and, it's a natural setting, it's fantastic, but he's got sunglasses on, you can't see his eyes. We trust people by looking in their eyes. And if you are applying for a position, a recruiter is going to go to your LinkedIn photo, on your LinkedIn profile. That's the first thing they're going to do, believe it or not. The very first thing they're going to do is go to your LinkedIn. If they can't see your face, if they can't see your eyes, they're going to wonder, even if everything else seems okay. So very, very important to put some thought into what your LinkedIn photo looks like. I do get a lot of questions on this, so just before I move on to the second tidbit, does anybody just have any question about the picture? Because I got a lot of questions about the picture. Cool?
I'm curious what your picture looks like, because you wear glasses, and it's hard to get a good picture without glare.
That's me on the upper left.
So
I take off my glasses for pictures.
And you recommend that?
For me, it works. There's no hard and fast. There are people with glasses on in their LinkedIn photos, but your point about glare is a very good one. So it could also just be vanity. I just never take pictures with my glasses on. And believe it or not, largely it's because even though these are rimless and they're very transparent, I really feel like you can't really see my eyes in a photo because of the reflection. So. But I might also just say it's vanity. So, okay, let's move on.
Could I ask
Yes.
a quick question? Would you see a situation in which some of these photos might be appropriate? For example, the person with a cat might have a pet sitting business and might have this as a way to show, hey, I'm really good with pets.
So that is a really good question. So can you have some of these photos where it might reflect your business and therefore it would be appropriate to actually have on a LinkedIn photo? If that were the case, then the LinkedIn profile would be of the business, right? So it would say Dave Dixon cat sitting or something like that, in which case guy with cat makes sense. As opposed to if it said Dave Dixon banker, and he's got a cat, not so much, right? So, or if the seasoned IT director was an instructor of snorkeling, maybe. I mean, quite frankly, I would rather suggest that if it was a business-related LinkedIn profile, that you would have your logo on that profile, or at least have the logo in the cover photo. The spot for the behind the person's head, what's called the cover photo. Generally speaking, no. I mean, because if you're the representative of that company, they still want to see you. Who are you? Who's the person behind the company? Now, if let's say he was a snorkeling instructor, you could see maybe him doing snorkeling instructing in the cover photo behind the picture and his face in the profile photo. So, does that make sense? Okay. So, moving on to the next one, the headline. So this topic comes up a lot. The headline is the words that go right underneath your name. And so in the examples I have here, the person at the very top left, does anybody know who Reid Hoffman is?
Yeah, this is LinkedIn founder.
Yes, he's the founder of LinkedIn. I wish I had candy. I would just give it to you as like pluses, like, oh, good answer. So he's the founder of LinkedIn. So I thought, who better to pull up a photo of than the founder? And his headline says, entrepreneur, product strategist, and innovator. And inventor. And I like that because it's a combination of what he does and who he is. You can definitely have your title. I mean, I have my title on my headline, and Jacqueline below, another one of my former students, she now works at Airbnb, and she has her title, Talent Design Specialist. Totally okay. That's perfectly fine. But if let's say you are an entrepreneur, you have your own business, or you have multiple identities. You might be an accountant, but you also might be an author. And maybe you might also be a consultant or something, and you want the world to see that, then Gayla, a colleague of mine, in the middle, she has a great representation of that. So her title says, or headline says, the Millennial Career and Lifestyle Expert, National Speaker, Career Coach and Brand Strategist, and Certified Life Coach. Now, that's a lot, I grant you. Typically, you should have no more than maybe a couple of lines under there. But I love that because what it does is it gives you a full flavor for who she is and what she brings to the table. And so I encourage you to think about what do you want to be known for? How do you want people to see you? What story do you want to tell about who you are in the professional world? So again, there's nothing wrong with having your title, but I've actually noticed and observed that a number of people have headlines that actually aren't their title. It's more a representation of who they are. One of my I have a lot of former students on here. He now works at Cisco, and his headline says, energized, energetic, and creative leader. I thought, wow, and that's actually who he is. He really is that person. And he has like it's like product manager at Cisco. He's got like a really great job, but he chose to show the world who he was as opposed to what he was. So give some thought to this. You could do the easy and just put up your title, totally fine. But if you want to be creative, be truthful. Here's the other thing. Let me just add one more thing. Another question that comes up a lot. What if you want to make a career transition? Right? So what if you are currently working in operations and you want to move into marketing? I'll just say that. Do you put the title or the headline that you are now, or do you put the headline that you're aspiring to be? So, and you can't, it's tricky. You don't want to make things up. You don't want to misrepresent yourself or say that you are something that you want to be, but you're not actually doing the work right now. So, and given that I work with graduate students, we deal with this all the time. Students come back to school largely because they want to make a career transition. But, all of you professionals, some of you may have that goal too. What I typically suggest is that to give some thought to if you have done some kind of work in the area that you want to go into, right? So let's just say, work with me for a second. Let's say you currently work in some aspect of university operations, and you want to go into recruiting or marketing here in university or someplace else. And you have had the opportunity to volunteer in some sort of event management role, whether it could be your children's school activities, it could be your, if you're in a spiritual group, it could be your spiritual group activities, it could be a hobby that you are involved in, and you've had some opportunity to do a marketing-related task. Then there is some legitimacy to being able to show on your headline that you are interested in event planning. Let's just say it's event planning, right, related to marketing. What you do is you don't put that you are an event planning specialist, right, or a marketing specialist, because you're not there yet, right? You haven't earned those stripes yet. But you could say operations manager and market research or event activities or event planning, but do not put the what's the word we use? Don't put specialist or manager or analyst or any job title attached to your aspirational goal, because then it implies that you actually do that work like full-time right now. But you can put that you are an operations manager and event. You can even say, I have had some students say aspiring event, strategist or something like that, so that you're honest, but you're also aspirational. So this concept takes a little work. I mean, I could do a whole workshop on this, but I just want to drop those nuggets in your mind that you can indicate from a branding standpoint where you're going. You don't have to be locked into where you are, not even on LinkedIn, which can be a little bit rigid at times. So does that Does that help a little? You guys get where I'm going with that? So always be truthful. Always, always, always be truthful, because you'll be caught out otherwise. They'll figure, the recruiter will ask you some questions, you'll be like, I've actually never done any of that before, right? You want to be honest, you want to be truthful, but you can be aspirational. Okay, so let's move forward. Summary. How many of you in here have a summary of any kind? Right? All right. And you guys know what I mean by summary, where the summary goes right underneath. So hold on. So underneath I don't even know what they call this in LinkedIn language, sort of the business card chunk at the top of your LinkedIn profile. So many people don't have summaries. I've looked at a lot of LinkedIn profiles. Many people do not have summaries. But LinkedIn strongly recommends you have one. Why? Why?
Well, it's like if you're a recruiter, at a glance you can kind of see, oh, this is what I want. And in case you're interested, keep looking.
Exactly. So the recruiter at a glance can get a feel for who you are very quickly by skimming your summary. A lot of times, especially if they're looking on their smartphone or smart device, LinkedIn has set it up so that you can skim very, very quickly through a LinkedIn profile. And the recruiter is looking to see who you are, and they don't want to have to read through your whole profile, with all the job descriptions to figure out who you are. They're looking to read your summary if you have one. Yes? Unless you can project, yeah, you're going to need that.
We're also recording this. So
Yes.
What's your take on first person versus third person
yeah,
language?
yeah.
And summaries?
I am agnostic. So you can do both. I've seen equally compelling summaries written in the first person, just like Jacqueline. This is my former student Jacqueline, who's at Airbnb. I am a driven, enthusiastic business professional with a background in business analytics, et cetera. So she's written hers in the first person. I've also had students, mid-level professionals, senior executives, it doesn't matter, write in the third person. Susan, there's three versions. There's the first person, there is the third person that's written as if the person were being introduced. Susan is an accomplished marketing executive in the technology industry with over 25 years of blah, blah, blah. And then there's the third version, which is where you don't have any reference to the person's name, and it's written almost like you would in a resume. Accomplished marketing executive with 25 years of experience, or financial analyst with 10 years of experience in higher education and high technology, whatever. So you have a lot of flexibility about how you can write your summary. The key thing to focus on, though, is at least 40 words. That comes from LinkedIn, not me. But what they're saying is you want it to have be more than just, you don't want just that list of bullets, right? So if she had written her summary with only a list of bullets, it would not be very compelling. You're telling a story with your summary, right? We're talking about sharing who you are, sharing your strengths, sharing your accomplishments, sharing your goals, your skills. This is a little blurb on who you are and what you have to offer to the world. I've had people write all kinds of things, from their professional experience and background and also their interests. But I will tell you, among the most important things you need to keep in mind are keywords. Keywords, keywords, keywords. Why? Is anyone here, actually I should have asked this question, does anyone here work in recruiting at the university? No, there are no recruiters in here? Okay. Because I was going to ask them, what recruiters do, who they have like the souped up version of LinkedIn, is they go in and they do a search. And let's say they're searching for someone who has experience in not only, let's say, they're looking for a finance person. And it's not just finance. Maybe they want someone who's worked specifically in treasury, working on figuring out how to do financial derivatives and very specialized financial models and things like that. They're going to go into LinkedIn and do a search on those keywords. And what they're looking to find is profiles that will pop up with the keywords. They'll literally be highlighted throughout your profile. So if you have keywords in your summary, in your job descriptions, then your chance of showing up higher up on the list when they do the search is going to be that much greater. So if you write your summary with very general words and you use buzzwords, like, she does have team, but I'm a team player, or I work well with people, or, that's fine, but it's not going to help you. This is really, really critical. It's not going to help you get noticed by the people who are looking for you. So how do you do that? How do you figure out what the right keywords are? It's actually not that hard. You go into LinkedIn under jobs, and you look up jobs that are in line with what you're either doing right now, if that's what you want to continue to do, or job where you want to go, what you're interested in doing. Read enough of the job descriptions at the level that you're interested in. So let's say you are in, I'll use finance again. And you're a financial analyst now at the university, but you want to move up to a senior level financial analyst. Well, maybe there are a set of job responsibilities that are specific to someone at that level. You want to read enough of those job descriptions to start picking out what words come up again and again and again and again. Then you need to go into your LinkedIn profile and make sure you drop those words in. It's not that complicated. Because then when someone's looking for you and they're typing in those keywords, ping, up will pop your LinkedIn profile. Yes, yeah, okay, yeah.
On that topic,
She's running. There you go.
on that topic, a quick follow-up. Are there particular sections of the profile that rank higher in searches for keywords in particular?
That one.
The summary itself. Okay.
Yeah. But definitely your actual individual job descriptions, because those are then going to support what you've put in the summary. But remember, this is the first thing, or it's the second thing that the recruiter is seeing when he or she pulls up your profile. So she'll do a search. So think of it this way: she does let's say it's a she. She does a search, financial analyst derivatives. Maybe she'll get 5 people that come up in the results page. Then she'll click on the first person, and she'll go in to see, all right, what does this person actually have to say? And if you have maybe 10 references to derivatives, which is going to be the primary reason that your profile came up in the first place, great, but true story. I'm not outing anybody here, but I had a student who had this phenomenal summary, right? Great summary with all these amazing experiences in it. Read the summary first. I was like, this is fantastic. And then I started reading her actual job descriptions, and there weren't any references to the things that were in the summary. And I said, well, what happened? It's like a whole different person in the summary compared to what's in the job descriptions. She goes, I just didn't get around to fleshing it out that much, and I just thought it was enough if I put everything in the summary. No, it has to be consistent all the way through. So if you're going to reference something in your summary, make sure you reference it in the job descriptions, because otherwise they think you just made it up. Quite literally. Next question.
I'd love to refer back to this particular profile. Could you repeat her name?
I'm sorry, which one?
Your student's name that we're using as an example.
Oh, yes, Jacqueline.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. I have to tell her that she's become like my rock star here. She always has been a rock star. So her summary is very simple, really, really simple. She could add more. I've had students talk about their background, where they've come from. Again, it's what you want people to know about you, but not extensive, because a person's going to be reading this very quickly. Okay, so let's move on. I'm going to step through some of these pretty quickly, just so I can make sure I cover everything. So detailing your past work experience. This is sort of logical, but I have seen scores of LinkedIn profiles that do not have any job descriptions at all. I know that takes work, and it's easier to just put up the titles and the companies and the dates that you work there and be done with it. But this is what people read this stuff. They really do. They actually look to see what did you do, because half the time if you work for a company that nobody's ever heard of, or you have a title that's a little bit unusual, no one will know what you did. So they're reading to figure it out. Like, what do you bring to the table? So you have to have a description. And it's okay, I see your hand, 1 second. It's okay if you pull some of those from your resume. That's totally fine. Just do not replicate your entire resume on LinkedIn, because it'll just get too long. Hand.
Thank you. I'm curious, do people typically only have one LinkedIn profile if they have like multiple types of jobs that are just different? Like, for instance, if you're an artist and I'm just wondering how much can you merge between one profile?
People typically have one LinkedIn profile unless they have a business. So they might have a personal LinkedIn, or like your own professional, how would I explain this? Let's say you have a day job and then you have a side gig. So lots of folks might have a main website, LinkedIn profile for their day job, and then they might have a LinkedIn profile. Let's say you're a real estate agent on the side. So I have friends who have like a regular job, and then they do real estate on the side. So they might have a real estate-oriented LinkedIn profile. Now, let's say it's not an actual side job, and it's something that you want people to know that that's kind of, you're multi-talented. So one LinkedIn profile, but then they indicate examples of their work or links to their portfolio, like if you're an artist. And there's I've seen lots of people do that. So maybe they are, pick something different. Maybe they're a teacher, during the day, but they're also an artist on the side, and they may actually indicate that, examples of it could have a different section on their LinkedIn where they could put that and have samples of their work if they want the world to see that. Oh, yes. Oh, sorry.
How much of the detail that's listed on here should be about you and your individual role or contribution versus the organization that you might have worked for, particularly if it's an organization that people wouldn't be familiar with?
Great question. So in terms of how much information to share about your organization and versus you, what I often advise students, especially, or people, because I work a lot with students, so I talk about students, but these are students who are like anywhere from 25 to 45, so many have extensive work experience. I often recommend that if you're working for a company that people are not familiar with, to put a sentence that describes the company in much the same way that you might do with a resume. But just a sentence. It doesn't have to be a whole paragraph, but a sentence that describes what the company does. And then go into the bullets that highlight your accomplishments, right? So very important to highlight your accomplishments, not just, I was part of a team that did this, and a team that did that, and a team that did the other, because inevitably the recruiter is going to want to know, well, that's great, but what did you do? How did you contribute to that success of that team? The other thing is, we typically recommend maybe no more than 3 to 5 bullets on LinkedIn per job description, because again, someone's reading this a lot of the times on a phone, and they just want to get through it really fast. LinkedIn has made it a little easier in that now they just list the job on your phone. They just list the jobs, and you click on the job, and then it'll expand, and you can actually read yours or the other person's description. So, okay. Oh, whoops. Yeah.
Yeah, is there a reason why she didn't give any responsibilities for her current job? Is that assumed in the summary?
Yes, because she just started that job 3 months ago, and so knowing her, she probably just hasn't had the chance to do that yet. But
for us, we
Should
should definitely
yes,
put
you should. So
current
sorry,
position.
I meant to mention that. Yeah, she just needs to finish filling that out. I'll haunt her about that. But yeah, she just started that job. So behind you.
Just a quick question. How far back should we go in terms of including past experience?
So typically the rule of thumb is no further back than maybe, well, it depends how old you are too, but like 10 to 15 years. And also relevance is most important. So let's say you have had one type of role for the first 5 years of your work life, and then for the last 5 years or 10 years or 15 years of your work life, you've done something else entirely different. You had like starter jobs, and then you have real jobs. you do not need to include those starter jobs. If you're a student, we say put everything on there because they have no work experience, right? So everything they do, internships or campus jobs, whatever, we say put everything on. But when you're a professional, you don't need to put down that you were a server unless it was like a Jardinier or someplace like that. It was like a really well-known, prestigious place. But generally speaking, we say just focus on the relevant work experience. Did I see one more hand? Yes.
I've been in my current position for 9 years, and before that, all of my jobs were really starter jobs. What do I do in terms of my profile? How long can I make my description of my current job, for example, before it's just like too much?
Have you been in the same job you said for 9 years?
Yes, I went from like a 2 to a 3, but yes, same job.
Okay.
A different, the projects changed and the role kind of changed in 9 years, but same job.
And so the title didn't change?
Title didn't change.
Okay.
Well, yeah, basically.
Basically, yeah. I mean, the classification changed, but the title didn't change. Oh, so you could do several things. You could just discuss that one job that you've had for 9 years, and you could break it apart by category. If you worked on different types of projects or to show some progression or some diversity of experience, because you don't need to put the starter jobs unless you feel they're relevant or they show some other aspect of your skill set. But if it's just like things that just totally not exciting to talk about, focus on those 9 years, the main job, because that's what someone's going to be evaluating you on anyway. And then you can see there's all kinds of creative things you can do with LinkedIn. So you can put in little categories. Even within one job posting, you could have, let's say you worked in, you did some budgeting, and then maybe you did some event planning, and maybe you did some, I don't know, team building or something like that. Depending on where you want to go with your career, you could have little subject heads, categories, and then a few bullets under each area, all under the same job posting for those 9 years. Like I said, LinkedIn can be very rigid, but if you're creative, you can, one other thing, let me just kind of just add. So one of the things that, let me just show you really quick because it's easier to show you than to explain. So one of the things that I did, because I made a career transition many years ago, is I had a background in, high-tech marketing and nonprofit fundraising and marketing. And then I decided to move into leadership development, career in leadership development. But I had a career for many, many years doing high-tech marketing and nonprofit fundraising. So way at the bottom, what I did is I combined them all because LinkedIn forces you to do things chronologically. List your experiences chronologically. And I didn't want to list all those jobs because I felt it would distract from what I'm doing now and what I wanted to do and where I was going. So here's what I did. So, oops, why doesn't it allow, oh, that's weird. For some reason it's not, why won't it show the?
Unless it's expanded screen where.
Yeah, because it's only showing the PowerPoint, but it's not showing the website. How do I make it do that?
Is the website in the PowerPoint?
No? Shouldn't it just be able to show a website? Because the PowerPoint is connected, see?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we have to change the display setting.
Oh, okay, well, that's...
Or you can drag it, probably. You might be able to drag it over.
Let me see. Let me just make sure this is... Okay, that's still working. All right, I'm going to have to talk through it, because in the interest of time. All right, so what I did is I grouped all of my past jobs, because they all had the same kind of work, and chronologically, since it was the first, 10 years or so of my work career, all those jobs were marketing and fundraising jobs. And they were I think I worked for about 4 different companies. So the title I gave myself was Marketing and Fundraising Director, because that is what I did. And then the companies, I typed in the names of those companies, Oracle, Goodwill, all these companies I worked for. And then I put the years, the years that I worked for those companies. And then I summarized my responsibilities. So what it did is it enabled me to collapse and consolidate all these jobs that I had worked for where I did basically the same kind of work without distracting someone as they're going through LinkedIn and seeing job after job after job after job of marketing director and fundraising director and all this stuff. So if you're trying to make a transition, especially from one field to a completely different field, and you had worked for several other companies like I did, you can go into the LinkedIn system and manually set it up so that you consolidate those jobs from your previous work experience. So just mindful of time. Yes?
Just a quick question. As far as the summary?
Yes. I'll repeat it.
Oh.
Yeah.
As far as the summary, how do you feel about it being more colloquial? Sort of like, since it's an introduction to who you are, do you have any thoughts on saying, hi, or thanks for stopping by? Or, I mean, maybe not those exact words, but.
It depends on what your career is.
Right.
Quite honestly, if you are in a role that is creative and, like if you were a consultant with McKinsey, no. A management consulting firm type thing. If you're a teacher, if you're artist, if you're working advertising, if you're in some role that has a creative element, then you have a lot more license, a lot more leeway. If you're in a role like if you're an accountant, probably not, right? Because again, it's all a part of your brand. How are you representing yourself to the world? And if that's, as long as it's consistent with the work you do, the work you want to do, then you have a lot more flexibility to be creative. Now, that said, there's limits. Like I wouldn't start out my summary saying hi, but I've seen people who've started out their summaries like telling a story. Something like, I don't know why this just came to me, but I've been nonstop watching all the different conventions this week. And one thing that stood out to me was, and this is not a political statement, it's just, I liked his intro. When Tim Kaine, his first words, running for the vice president candidacy, his first words were, "I never thought I'd be here." And I thought, wow, that's a great intro. Regardless of what I think about politics, and just from a pure communication standpoint, it's a great hook, right? So what kind of hook are you going to use? How are you going to kick off your story? So creativity is fine, as long as it's, within, like anything else, within moderation. Number 5, so we have just 3 more to go, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about branding. So samples of your work. So, and now I'm kind of sorry now that I didn't realize can't actually show the web, because I would have shown more of this, but this is a wonderful way to showcase examples of things that you have done. So this is a different person. It's not the same person I've been showing all along. And she has a background in nonprofit. She started her own nonprofit, does a lot of events related to social justice and empowering youth. And so she has put on a number of these events, and she showcased pictures from the events. I've also seen LinkedIn profiles where people have put links to their websites. I myself, having done this seminar, this workshop with the UC Berkeley Now conference now, for I think it's like the 4th time, I have put links to the YouTube videos that they take of these presentations, and I've put them on my LinkedIn profile. And it's just a great way to introduce people to the work that I do. They get to watch a workshop on, networking if they wish by going to my LinkedIn profile. So use LinkedIn as there's a term we use now in career management, as your e-portfolio. Does that ring a bell? Have you guys heard that mentioned? So it's your one-stop shop, your location, to showcase not just your professional career in words, but in video, in pictures, through links to websites or blogs that you may have, especially if you don't have your own website. That said, one caveat is keep in mind, I'm not trying to be a downer, but you don't own LinkedIn. You don't own the content that's out there. it's your profile, but you do not own this site. This site is owned and controlled and managed by LinkedIn. So what that means is it's important for you to always keep copies of everything you have on LinkedIn, because you just never know, right? So it's always important to keep copies. You can literally download everything you've got on LinkedIn. You can download it. You can press a button, download everything, and save it. Very important to know that, because it's not your website. It's your profile, but it's not your website. You guys know what I'm saying? You follow me? Okay, yes.
Do you need to get permission for photos, like with other people in the photos, especially since we work with students and other staff?
If you work with other students, I would say typically yes, especially if you're putting it up as your activity. I mean, a lot of times there'll be waivers that students will sign at the beginning of the semester that says if you attend some event, you are by default, you recognize that pictures may be taken and that you are giving your approval to have your picture taken. But generally speaking, want to ask people, do you mind if I take this picture? I mean, a lot of times they'll just, before I just throw something up there, you'll ask. The other thing is if you want to pull a picture off Google Images, a lot of times if you put indicator that this came from Google Images or whatever, that kind of helps cover yourself as well. But very good point, especially given FERPA laws and things like that. Any other questions? Okay, but experiment with this. I don't know if any of you have blogs or websites or videos or things that you want to show, and we're going to talk about postings separately, but it's a great way to showcase your work, and it just makes your LinkedIn profile more interesting and more fun. Okay, skills and endorsements. So, this is pretty straightforward. This section of your profile, it's useful. It's not the most critical aspect of it, but you should definitely at least put some skills up there, and then people, when they come to your site, will be asked to endorse you. The reason I say it's not the most critical thing is that, a lot of us kind of take it with a grain of salt. You define the skills that you want to be known for, people endorse you, but not everybody who's endorsing you actually knows how you work that skill. So I think a lot of times folks will endorse you because LinkedIn asks them to, and they've never actually seen you do that work. So that's why I say, it's helpful, but it's not the most critical thing. What is critical, and I actually don't have a slide on it, so I'm going to tell you, is recommendations. Recommendations, very, very, very important. So you can go to someone and ask them to do a LinkedIn recommendation for you for a job or a committee or volunteer activity you may have been involved in. Those do get looked at by hiring managers and recruiters. They'll say, okay, yeah, he or she's got all the requisite skills. That's good, fantastic. But they're going to look at your recommendations, because that's where someone's actually taking the time to write out the way in which you made a difference. So I would very much recommend that you include recommendations or solicit them. And you can give people some pointers as to what you want them to focus on. And it doesn't have to be long. Okay. All good on this one before we move to the last one? All right. Volunteer experiences and causes. How many of you have a volunteer experience and cause on your LinkedIn? Some. What's so interesting about this is that not only does it help increase your profile views, but I was on a call with a representative from LinkedIn just a couple days ago. And she was actually walking through a similar version of this presentation, but a little bit more in depth. And what she said is, and this, I didn't even know this, hiring managers actually indicate that they view your volunteer experiences and causes as just as important as your professional paid work. So hiring managers view volunteer experiences and causes as just as worthy, just as important as your professional paid work, because not only does it show that you're out in the community and you're doing, something productive, constructive, helpful, but it also tells them that you may have some skills that are in addition to or above and beyond the ones that you use in your day-to-day job. So, for example, let's say you have a leadership role in a particular organization, whatever it may be. And maybe you don't have a leadership role, maybe you're an individual contributor in your current job, but you're chair of the fundraising committee, or you were, Girl Scout troop leader, or you had some leadership role in some community organization. What that tells a potential hiring manager is, wow, this person has leadership skills, even though those skills may not be immediately obvious in their day-to-day job, right? Because you may only be managing yourself. So don't take this for granted. I encourage you all to go ahead and add your volunteer experiences and causes on your LinkedIn profile. So we've just covered the top 7 tips for optimizing your profile. What I want to shift into now, with the little bit of time we have left, is just to talk about a few resources that LinkedIn offers to help you build, go beyond just a profile and help build your brand, and also increase your knowledge. So LinkedIn has, there's 4, I think there was one more, I can't remember what it was, but there's 4 major tools that you can use. The first are groups. How many here have joined a LinkedIn group? Okay, fantastic. The second is SlideShare. Who's used SlideShare? No? Okay, I'll tell you what it is in a minute. Pulse. Anybody know what Pulse is? Okay, I'll tell you about that in a minute. And then influencers, which is people. It's actually not a tool. It's more like individuals that you can follow. So let's talk about each real quickly. First one, finding and joining LinkedIn groups. So there are a host of groups on LinkedIn that you can join. What I love about LinkedIn groups, and again, I'm not doing an advertisement, they're not paying me to promote them. It's just because I work with so many students, and we're always trying to think creatively about how do we help students, how do we help people meet other people for networking, for mentoring, et cetera. There's a zillion groups out there that are all within the LinkedIn universe. So let's say you want to move into, let's say you want to start a whole new business in interior design. Let's just take it out of the business realm, or traditional business realm. You can find a LinkedIn group on interior design. People who are interested in that area, and they follow it, and they're practitioners, and they want to network with other people who do that. Or you want to find mentors or leaders who are in higher education student personnel, right? Or people who work in fundraising, or people who work in finance, marketing. It doesn't matter. There's millions of groups out there. You can go into the search field in LinkedIn, that empty box at the top, and you can click on advanced, and you can find the group category or tab, and then you can just type in whatever it is you want to find a group group on. Not Groupon, but a group that's about that group. And then what you do, the suggestion I would make for you is look for the group that has the most members. Start there. Because you're more likely then to have the chance to read about what people are saying, hear what these thought leaders or these practitioners in this field are doing and saying. There's a momentum. And look to see how active it is. Because if there's a group that has 5,000 members but no one has posted anything in 5 years, what's the point? So once you join the group, then you have 2 things you can do. You can lurk, and just read what other people are saying, or you can post things in that group. Could be just a comment, could be just a reaction. You don't have to come up with an original idea. You can simply react to someone else's suggestion or posting. It's a great way to start to become known in that circle. People, get your name out there. And then if you feel courageous, you can post your own comment or your own article, not your own article, post an article or an observation or something in the group. So it's like a little micro community. Groups are a fabulous way to become known and also to get to meet other people who you can then invite to connect with you on LinkedIn, because now you have something in common. So I definitely, absolutely recommend baseline, join at least one group to help raise your awareness and your brand. The second one is something called SlideShare. SlideShare is like a database of PowerPoint and presentations that people have done, usually work-related, business, professional in nature. SlideShare was a separate independent company that got bought by LinkedIn. I think it was like a year ago or something. And so now you can go and under, it's like the drop down that's all the way on the far right-hand side on the menu on LinkedIn, and you'll find SlideShare. You can go in and find presentations that other people have done, and it's a great way to learn about different topics. Or even better, you can post a presentation that you've done on SlideShare, but be aware, of course, everyone's gonna now have access to it. But there's thousands of presentations on SlideShare. And then you can also upload from SlideShare, you can upload a presentation onto your LinkedIn if you want to share it with other people. So it's a great way to start becoming a thought leader yourself if you share something that you've done. Pulse is kind of like a repository of articles and news on different topics. Lots of people have gotten really excited and interested in participating in this Pulse community. People like you and me, can write articles and publish them on Pulse. And let me show you real quick. There's a difference between doing an update on your LinkedIn versus publishing. An update is where you just share a link, share someone else's article, share an image, the things that we typically do on LinkedIn. With Pulse, you're actually writing an essay. You're writing something, and then you're going to actually publish it. And it's so easy because LinkedIn makes it super easy for you. Where you see that's the top part of my LinkedIn profile, where it says share an update, upload a photo, or write an article. If you click on write an article, then it just starts taking you through the process of how you post an essay that's your original work. Once you've posted it, here's what it looks like. So look on the left first. This is one of my former students, now the guy who works at Cisco. He's published several articles on Pulse. One is called Don't Let Expectations Manage You. So his articles now show up in his LinkedIn profile. And then on the right is what the article actually looks like once you're in Pulse. Now, here's the thing. We have yay, we've got 6 minutes. Here's a very important thing to know. So when Pulse first came out, anybody could access it through their regular LinkedIn profiles. Now it's super popular, and LinkedIn has moved Pulse under the premium product that you have to pay for. But here's the good news. You can still access it, but you can't find it from your LinkedIn toolbar. So the way you access it is you can go to linkedin.com/pulse. So write that down. And this video, the PowerPoint will be made available to you after the conference organizers will upload it on the website. But I just want to share that with you now because I was trying to figure out where it went, and I had to search and search and search, and then finally figured out I could just access it /pulse. But it's not hanging off the toolbar on your LinkedIn page. So if you go home and you're like, Vanessa said we could just go to Pulse and it'd be right there, and I can't find it, it's because you have to type it in. So, and the last bit is LinkedIn influencers. So these are, forward-thinking thought leaders. Well, I guess that's redundant, but those are thought leaders who are regularly posting articles on LinkedIn, and they have huge numbers of followers, and so LinkedIn designates them as influencers. They're great. If you follow them, you can actually click a button that says follow. You can start hearing more about, what they have to say. You can also become an influencer. You don't have to be famous, but if you're someone who posts articles a lot and you start acquiring followers, you can become a LinkedIn influencer. So for those of you ready to take it to the next level, that is what you could be. It's not, you don't have to be Ariana Huffington to be a LinkedIn influencer. So these are I've just shared with you very quickly ways that you can help increase your own brand. The goal is that you can leverage LinkedIn to help you become known for what you already know. And it's just about being creative and thinking about ways to use this service beyond its sort of bread and butter, okay, I'll slap up a profile up there and I'll add like 20 people and I'll be done with it. It's very powerful, very, very powerful. So I encourage you all to just, have fun with it. Now, I think we have, 3 minutes before we start releasing you to lunch. Any last questions I can answer about anything at all? Oh, okay, yes?
When would you say it's worth it to pay for the premium?
Well, the one thing is they will give you the first month free, so you can always try it for a month, see if you like it. I typically tell, in all honesty, I tell my students that they do not need to sign up for it to get at least what they need out of LinkedIn. They're looking for a job. They're looking to raise their visibility. Now, there are other levels of service available if you do sign up for premium. That maybe certainly like recruiters, people who are actively hiring managers, people who are actively searching for people. Also, there's certain aspects that you can get from premium. Like if you want to know who's looking at you, if you want, LinkedIn has sort of separated out what's readily available and what are sort of the extra bells and whistles. I don't have premium. I can do all of this without it. I don't think it's super necessary, to be honest, unless you have a special need to be able to manipulate the database, be able to search people in certain ways. So if you were an independent recruiter, I'd say you absolutely need it. But on a day-to-day basis for the average person, I don't think it's necessary. That's my opinion. I saw, did you have a hand?
I just want to start by saying thank you so much. This has been really helpful.
Good.
And I'm really happy at my job here at UC, but I get contacted by recruiters often, and I just kind of ignore them. But I want to know, partly because of they mentioned, layoffs and all that stuff. What do you recommend for responding or ignoring or adding them to your profile or your network, all of that?
I always think it's good to know what your market value is. It's easy to, I love my job. I'm happy in my job. And I often get contacted by recruiters as well. And I'll be honest, a lot of times I do ignore them because I'm so busy. That said, I don't really know what my market value is. Because I'm here, and I'm not here. I'm in my job, and I love it, and it's great. And the thought occurs to me wow, practice what you preach. What if something happens tomorrow? You don't know, right? The best time to be out there and learning about how you're viewed and how you're valued in the market is before you need another job. So I would say it's always a good idea to cultivate relationships with maybe specific recruiters. Not all 20 who are contacting you, but, pick and choose, maybe a couple here and there, and just have a conversation because, talking is free. I'm going to take my own recommendation. Talking is free. So you can have a conversation with a recruiter, learn more about what this role is that they're contacting you about. And also, it's not just about you. Maybe they're contacting you about a role that you don't want to do right now, but you might know somebody else who could be interested in it. And because you ignored them, you missed an opportunity to be a connector and connect someone else. The heart of networking. So, yes, one last question.
Tips on how to ask for these LinkedIn recommendations without giving the impression that you're about to walk out the door at your
Are you talking about how to ask for the recommendations versus what? Okay.
Yeah, how do you, recommendations are important.
Yeah.
How do you get recommendations from
Right.
people without,
Without setting up alarm bells, right. You can simply say, I went to this great workshop on LinkedIn and optimizing your profile, and they gave me homework. And the homework was I needed to at least have one recommendation on my LinkedIn profile to better showcase the contribution that I'm making. So would you be willing to be my partner in this? I just made that up, but why not? Okay, I think we're at time. Yes. Thank you all so much. It's been a pleasure.